Welcome back. Seven Rivers Racing here in KQEG TV. I'm Dan Dyker along with Al Losey. Our guest in the studio drives the number 13 North Country Contractor Sportsman Lacrosse. We've labeled him the Great Pumpkin this year, Mark Challet. Mark, take us back to the early days. When did you get interested that you wanted to be behind the wheel of a race car?
I guess it started when I worked out at the racetrack for a couple of years there, and then I seen a few Thunder stocks for sale, and I talked to my dad, and we pretty much bought one, and right after turned 16, and went off from there.
Now, how many years did you run Thunder stocks?
Probably about 5.
And then what was the decision to jump into a Sportsman? I always like that when I ask somebody that question, because you get some really weird and different type answers. When you wanted to go from one class to the other, what was the decision behind it?
I think a lot of it had to do with I just got fed up of getting wrecked every week, and so we decided to buy a car and move up.
And Mark drives the number 13, and you had some off-again, on-again problems last year. I know you had 2 different cars, if memory serves me correctly, last year. The blue car, somebody else was driving every now and then, getting some behind-the-wheel experience.
Yeah, that was my dad's car.
But this year, what is it that all of a sudden, things like you're really tuned in? If you watch some of the video we have here, you look a lot more comfortable behind the wheel this year.
I think a lot of it has to do with when we bought this car, because it used to be an old Gilster car. It seems more stout than the other car I had.
And of course, if everybody knows Danny and Jimmy Gilster, the way they have their car set up, it's obvious why they're running in the top 3 this year. Have you had to make many adjustments off of what the Gilsters had to set up to fit your needs of driving?
Well, we kind of set it up the way Ryan and them wanted to, and then we kind of just tweaked on it from there to make it to where I like it. And it's actually come along pretty good in the last few weeks, finally.
Confidence-wise, do you think this year is going to be a boost now that you are comfortable behind the wheel of a very stout car?
I think so. I mean, I think if I could just get some track position, I think that car is more than capable of winning a feature.
Now, what do you want to do after Sportsman? Do you want to stay Sportsman for a while and maybe late model down the road, or what's your intentions?
I think right now we're going to just stay with a Sportsman, but I mean, eventually maybe down the road I'd like to move into a late model if we can afford it.
Now, you're one of those we've talked about with crews in the past. You don't have a lot of people that come down to work on the car, but necessarily you really don't need a lot of people because the folks you do have there know what's going on. Right.
Yeah, for the most part it's just me and my dad, and now we got Jeremy Johnson that used to help Harley Jankowski out. It helps.
And your father is always working on your car. Every time I see him down there, and if he's not working on the car, he's running to find something for your car. So how nice is that to have him working at the track as well as, you know, working with him during the week?
It really helps because, I mean, it's a lot of bonding too. I mean, time together, and it helps that I got somebody, because my dad used to race too, so I mean, he knows his stuff, I know my stuff, and we try to put it together as best as we can.
I think the only time I see his dad away from the car is when he joins me for a hamburger down at the pit shack. He stops off and grabs a quick bite to eat, but then you look around and he's right back over by your hauler one more time. I know you've got some great sponsors that have stayed on board with you as well. You know, and Al and I were going to talk about this a couple of weeks ago. When you look at the sponsorships, when you get into racing, economy-wise, everybody knows that some of the dollars aren't out there. But the people that have stepped up this year are continuing car sponsors, and that's got to mean a lot to you.
Oh yeah, we've had a couple big ones actually step up since after the year started. But my main sponsor is Randy Beers Auto Care Center, Smith Services, Augie's Bar and Grill, Brian Craig Auctioneer, Breakers Pub and Eatery, and Cox Communication, which he actually just stepped up last week.
And I do want to thank all the folks at Randy Beers Auto Care, because he let Mark slip out of work a little bit early to tape today's program. They are on Highway 16 in West Salem, so I'll slip that little plug in right there, left-hand side if you're heading out of West Salem towards the lake. And I know Randy has been on a lot of cars in the past, and he's just one of those staples in the community that's really nice to rely on.
Oh yeah, and then I mean, Randy helps me out whenever I can. I mean, that's where I keep the car. I work on it there, and all around
It's always a
good
major
guy.
advantage when you've got a sponsor that owns a shop.
People don't realize how really important it is that some of the sponsors are also the employers of a lot of the drivers out there. So it's not just the financial end of things, it's the time that they're allowed to get away and do the work on their car, get away on a Saturday, and a lot of drivers out there have that situation.
Do you ever get tips from anybody you work with? I mean, obviously, you know, your dad is very well at what he does when he helps you set the car up. But do you ever have any coworkers that you know, there might be something that you just don't understand, or maybe need a tweaking on that you can go to?
Well, I mean,
Or do they go to you?
well, it's kind of hard because a lot of the other guys, I mean, they watch it on TV, but they really don't do a lot so around the racing scene. So I mean, other than that, I just go to a bunch of, like, the Gilsters and Ryan, Paul, and them if I need some help.
You know, and that's something else that we brought up during the entire season of the show so far, is if you look at the drivers and the teams of the Crosse Fairgrounds Speedway, yes, you have racing teams, but nobody is out there that won't step up if you do need some help.
Oh, yeah, I mean, the Gilster guys have helped me a ton just getting this car basically where it needs to be. And same with everybody. I mean, if you need a shock or a spring or something, if they got them, they're going to let you use them.
Well, there's so many times that, you know, last weekend Matt Henderson went off, when Jay Herbst has gone off, or Steve Carlson, Brent Kirchner, someone's been involved in a wreck. You know, it's just not their crew that's making a beeline for their cars. You see Thunderstock drivers jogging across the opposite side of the pits. You see Sportsmen drivers doing the same thing. You know, that's one of the neatest things that people really don't get to see with the advantage that I have. You both of you are obvious in the pits. I'm up in the tower. But I can see when a car pulls in, the scattering of folks going to help out. And that's really got to be a nice little comfort right there, knowing that you've got drivers and race crews out there.
Oh, it is. I mean, I got a bunch of friends that run Thunderstocks, and so, I mean, if something does happen where I cut a tire or bend some sheet metal or not, they're going to come to my help.
And so I know Al's had that luxury as well where you guys park. I mean, I know Joe Reinert's, you know, you got Joe Reinert's,
Yep.
and you've got Rob Mason, and you've got Billy Martin across me, Justin Mullick. I mean, it's just a nice group of different drivers down there that are willing to help.
Well, it's nice to have that camaraderie also. You know you're going to be in a pickle at some point in time, so you're helping everybody else out. Plus, it's kind of fun as a mechanic to go out there and fix something and see it get back out onto the racetrack, whether it's your equipment or somebody else's.
Right, because you can kind of sit back and inside without bragging, say, hey, I helped that guy get his first feature win, or whoever the case may be. Mark Challet drives the Randy Beers Auto Care Center number 13. It's the Great Pumpkin and the Sportsman at the Crosse Fairgrounds Speedway. You'll see him back out here in just a couple of days. Mark, thanks for coming on the program, and thank Randy for letting you off, and all your family as well.
Yeah, will do.
All righty, more racing coming up this weekend. Make sure you've got water, because it's going to be another hot one. I don't think the heat index is supposed to be as bad, but it's still going to be hot. It's
going to be a good evening to come on out, watch the races, bring a little suntan, and have some beer and pop up in the stands.
Kids under 11 get in free. They're going to be going after 10,000 pennies, a lot of prizes thrown to the track, and the big cash prize as well. That's at the La Crosse Fairgrounds Speedway. LaCrosseSpeedway.com, also DellsRacewayPark.com. If you want some dirt track racing, check out MississippiThunder.com. You can watch a replay of our show at YouTube.com/7RiversRacing. I give you a longer program on AM 580 WKTY on Saturdays with my race report from 4 to 5. And if you want to email a question into the both of us, Al and Dan, or even Mark Challet, how can they do so?
They can go to www.fansarena.com/7riversracingshow.html.
All right, for Mark Challet and Al Losey, I'm Dan Dykert. Thanks for stopping off, checking out the program. We'll be right here next week at the same time on KQEG TV.